program. But for now, we are going to be talking to the Advocates Association because they also have weighed in on this issue of Mr. Chung's appointment. They're saying the entire situation suggests that Jamaica is in a governance crisis. Founding director of the Institute of Law and Economics and a member of the Advocacy Network, Professor Roselia Hamilton, is with us. Appreciate you talking to us, Professor.
Hi, how are you?
Very well, thank you. So, governance crisis, that sounds strong. Why using those terms?
Yes, I think it's time for us to come to grips with what is causing all of this. I mean, I think there's a lot of focus here on Dennis Chung. I think if we look closely at the matter, no matter who becomes the new chief technical director of the FID, we have a situation where we're investigating financial issues surrounding our Prime Minister. For the first time in our history, we have a situation where not only is there questions about the certification of the Prime Minister for 4 years, going on 4 years, but also there are 8 parliamentarians who's currently being investigated and questions being asked about illicit enrichment. And we're going to a national election. We've never seen this in our history. And we see this as a defining moment, so that we urge the public not to simply look at this issue in isolation and get caught up in what we see are just stones being thrown on either side with respect to Dennis Chung's qualifications and so on and so on. Those are issues that I think transparency can resolve. It is a matter of grave concern to the country, and I think it's fair to say, be transparent, let's be confident that this process was credible. Having said that, there's a deeper issue that the country should be aware of.
And what do you want to see done in relation to those deeper concerns you're raising?
I think there are two things. We are troubled by the trend in voting over the years. We want to encourage Jamaicans to go out and vote. I think it's too simple to say that you don't see what to vote for. You talk to Jamaicans and you hear that all the time. Boy, we don't see no difference either side, right? But I think we have to be very thoughtful about where we're going. We're at a point where our government has said they want to do the most meaningful and comprehensive constitutional reform. This is a great opportunity for us to look at these issues that have persisted for far too long. And it is now being played out. I was struck by the fact that as members of the Advocate Network, we protested in the very same place that the protest is taking place today in response to unconscionable salary increases that we saw. And that the opposition is doing the same thing and is for the same reasons. There are no adequate mechanisms for the people's voices to be heard. These issues ought not to be taken to the street. There ought to be hearings in Parliament where all of us could have an opportunity, who want an opportunity to have a say on these very weighty issues that face our nation. And we should do it in a very responsible and orderly way. So we ought not to be demonstrating on all of these issues. We've had to because there's no adequate mechanism. And I think the PMP owes it to the country to say, what are those mechanisms you will put in place if you take power? So I think these are the kinds of issues that touch and concern our Constitution, and that every single Jamaican needs to get involved, be thoughtful about what is happening in this moment, and fix these governance issues once and for all. Having said what I just said, there's no perfect panacea to solve all these problems. After 250 years, we're seeing America going through their own governance crisis. But we still have to go after an ideal. We have to try to improve what we currently have. And I think a thoughtful approach to the Constitution that we've inherited since our independence can get us to a better place.
One of the concerns you raise is the long-held concern about the overarching and what has been called the awesome power of the Prime Minister. And obviously, listeners, we're not talking here about Dr. Holness, but anyone who holds that particular position. But
Right.
is there not a line there between, especially when you're involving, for instance, you speak of the House of Representatives. Let me go back to the sentence I'm referring to. I beg your pardon. You said under the Financial Investigations Division Act, the reports of even the most suitable chief technical director go to the finance minister, as well as the House of Representatives and the Senate, which are all under the control of the PM. Effectively, by constitutional design, the PM, you say, will have final say over his own investigation.
Yes, because in the final analysis, if we look carefully at the wording of our Section 69, subsection 2 of the Constitution, the Cabinet is the principal instrument of policy and is charged with the general direction and control of the government of Jamaica. That's what the Constitution says. And it speaks about shall be collectively responsible to Parliament, but what exactly does that mean? Our best reading of that is that Parliament must provide the kind of oversight of executive action in order for accountability and responsible government to take place. In the absence of that oversight, then prime ministerial and cabinet decision is unfettered. And so we can wait until it gets much worse, or we can use the opportunity we now have in this constitutional reform process to think about the kinds of changes that we need, including the size of the cabinet, including we think of our Senate, and a range of other things like petitions and hearings and so on that will give us a voice. There are many issues that are on the table, and we have to look at them, discuss them, and I urge Jamaicans, I think the press release from the Advocates Network urges Jamaicans to be thoughtful about the moment and to ensure that we don't get to this place again where we have a prime minister actually potentially breaking 3 laws according to the Integrity Commission, the Corruption Prevention Act, the Parliamentary Integrity of Members Act, and the Integrity of Commissions Act. No, we have a prime minister and our parliamentarians there to uphold our constitution and to uphold our laws. Our lawmakers can't be.
So I'm so sorry. I just want to be clear because I was listening to you. You're not, for the avoidance of all doubt, suggesting that there is any such conclusion, correct?
Absolutely not. I'm saying that's the reason why this issue is going to the FID that's my understanding, in order for the Integrity Commission to finalize its report. And so these are the claims of the Integrity Commission with respect to potential breaches. And those are serious issues. That's why we call it a governance crisis. These are not trivial issues. This is the person who leads our government. At
the same time, though, there's always a concern about creating entities that are not ultimately responsible to the electorate through our elected representatives.
Absolutely, and that's why the reports going to Parliament is important, because it is there our elected representatives can have a say. But if our if the voice of our elected representatives are trumped by, are dominated by, controlled by the ruling party and the Prime Minister and cabinet decisions, you see the numbers of cabinet ministers that are there, etc. Those kinds of structures and arrangements will not get us the kind of outcome that we want. We think we have, and we talk about a Westminster system, but we don't. What we've seen in a Westminster model in Britain is that times like this, the majority of members in the ruling party call for a vote of no confidence of the Prime Minister. We've seen a change of Prime Minister 3 times within one term. In England, I think it's 3 times. One for incompetence, not even for breaking the law, just incompetence. And so I think we have to get to this point if we're going to keep this parliamentary system, and there's, of course, lots of debates about changing it.